Hey everyone, Scott from musicplayers.com here with Nili Brosh to talk about
Hey,
all sorts of great guitar stuff. How are you doing today, Nili?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Scott.
Yeah. So you have a couple of new songs coming out. Why don't we start there? Tell us all about the new
Sure.
material that I've been listening to.
Yeah, so I got two songs coming out, one tomorrow, one the next day. And the decision behind that is because they were kind of supposed to come right after one after the other. That's kind of how I perceive them musically. They're probably going to be placed that way within a bigger picture record later on, but I just kind of wanted to keep it that way because that's how I perceived it. It just seemed like the first one, Song for Hope, should come first as kind of like a precursor to Lavender Mountains, which again comes out on Wednesday. The latter with a music video, and we'll be premiering both of them. Again, Song for Hope, just a song, and then with the music video, Lavender Mountains, we'll be premiering both of them on YouTube at 9 a.m. Pacific, so tomorrow and Wednesday. I don't know if this will be out by then, but regardless, that's how
Yeah,
we're celebrating the release. I'll be hanging out and chatting and stuff.
awesome. Now, there are a lot of people who are still, just discovering the world
Mm-hmm.
of your music, and I think there's a lot to be surprised by.
Oh, that's cool.
Starting with the fact that outside of all of your amazing instrumental work that we're going to talk about, you perform in Cirque du Soleil's Michael Jackson's One show,
Mm-hmm.
and then you also perform as a guitar player with Danny Elfman, which are
Yeah,
such big differences from one another, and
right,
also an extreme difference from the whole world of metal and
right,
shred that you play.
right.
So, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you became the guitar player you are today, which primarily is an instrumental rock and metal player, but then who also found yourself in this role, performing Michael Jackson's material, sort
Right.
of, and then playing with Danny Elfman, which is
Right.
just so in left field.
Right, right, yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised, all these things, like you said, they seem different, but they connect at the end of the day, they all have running themes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've, I guess, been serious about playing guitar from a fairly young age, and I was very into the idea of one day I'm going to be versatile because I love music and I love all kinds of different things. And even though I came from rock and shredding and instrumental music and all that, I really wanted to be well versed in other things so that I could play with as many people as I can, because I think that's the beautiful thing about it. I love the people and the hangs, and I've been blessed to be around such amazing musicians that I needed to kind of know my way around to be able to do that. So that's kind of, the years of practice and going to Berkeley and things like that were really in preparation for, I mean, again, never imagined anything like this, but I didn't want to be that metalhead that couldn't hang in any other situation.
Yeah. So which is the tougher gig, Cirque or Danny?
Um, they're all challenging in different ways. I think the running theme between these two, for example, is the amount of moving pieces and the level of production and that kind of thing. So it's similar in that way, where you're working with really big teams and a lot of different people, and you really have to be on top of everything. Although, with Danny, there's no holes in the stage opening up at different times. Like, you don't have that safety piece that you really have to watch out for. But Danny's gig it's not technically challenging, it's musically challenging in other ways. I have a different role in that band as the guitar player, to complement another guitar player and to complement an orchestra and all these things, and to reinterpret Boingo songs that now have kind of new meanings and stuff like that. So it's a very different role. Um, and then Cirque is I've done that show so many times that those solos and everything are so autopilot, and it's just less of a mental gig and much more of a physical exertion kind of situation. So it's great in the sense that I have one gig where I don't have to really think about it or prep, and I can just mentally like really be in it and perform, and then you're just like you're tuckered out, and that was your workout for the week, and now you're off to do something else musical. That's kind of how I think about it now.
Oh, that's great. Now, now let's talk about a little bit about your guitars.
Hmm.
Okay, you're mostly identified with Ibanez. Why
Right.
don't you tell me about your go-to guitars?
Yeah, so right now my main two guitars are a custom model that I spec'd out last year, the year before, um, and it's got the special thing about it is that it's an RG, but it's humbucker single single, and they're passive EMG pickups. It's got a maple neck. It's a basswood body. It's got the wizard neck type of thing, and it's kind of modeled after the 55, or I guess 560 would have been the one that had the humbucker single single. But that was the idea, is that I wanted a fat strat type of fast RG. And that kind of complements my yellow 550 that everybody sees me with a lot. And to me, I think the whole thing with that is to kind of show that, again, that versatility is in that instrument beyond what people might think, based on the color or the like the way that it's pigeonholed in a certain way, I guess, right? You see Ibanez, like, that's a shred guitar, that's a fast neck, whatever. And I don't really believe in all that. I think they're great instruments, and I think there's a lot to be gotten out of them. So that's kind of my game with it now. Of
Yeah, no, I agree. And we everyone at musicplayers.com, we play a ton of premium guitars and we've
course.
reviewed a ton of instruments. And we're always very quick to point out when you have a guitar like the Ibanez, anything in the Ibanez RG family, it is an iconic rock guitar,
Right.
but it's an extremely versatile instrument.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and so you favor a single coil for your neck pickup?
Yeah, I do. And I know that might not seem obvious based on my older seven strings that I used to play, but that kind of was in a big picture sort of sense more of when I was playing with Tony MacAlpine, and that was to cater to that gig and that kind of music. And with my last album and singles and stuff, I've kind of gone back to the world of six string, which always felt like, I mean, I never really considered myself a seven string player. I feel like other people labeled me as such, but I never really thought that I was moving away from ye old six string guitar, right? So yes, that does make more sense to me, especially when you do want to play other things and you want to be versatile and you want to have some funky rhythms or whatever. Like, I really like those single coils. It's nice to have that sometimes. I still have a bridge humbucker. It's all good. Like, so yeah.
Nice. And it's funny because I'm going to ask you one other question about these other players, and then
Sure.
I actually see a very big connection between all of these different worlds of yours that I'm going to come right back to.
I like
But
that.
but let's talk about playing with Tony MacAlpine. There are
Mm,
a lot of young people today who don't know him as well as
right.
people that are in the 30 and up crowd.
Right. Man,
But
I'm
I mean,
like starting to
how
date myself now, right?
yeah, how intimidating to go to play a guitar in a band with Tony MacAlpine.
It
And
was so intimidating, and I can't even express to you how much more it was intimidating because I was young and green and it was one of my first gigs. Like, it was just so out of left field. I didn't know how to behave in a situation like that. I mean, I was like fresh out of college and just trying to figure it out, and it was the last thing I'd ever expected to find myself in. And he was the one that said, everybody thinks that you can play this except for you, because we were about to start playing all this maximum security stuff, and I was like, are you sure I can do that? Like, I don't know, man. Like, this isn't like a vocal gig now. This is, because he's had vocal bands and other projects and stuff. I was like, this is the real shrapnel shit. This is not
yeah,
rhythm guitar, whatever. But he was the one that actually, like, really gave me that confidence and had that faith in me, and that I was just like, wow, I have so much to thank him for that. He will
that,
always be that person.
that's great. Now, of
Um,
course, people, a lot of people don't realize that Tony, I mean, he's such an insane musician. I mean, and listen to what he
yes,
does on piano, for example.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
which leads me to the one unifying theme with all of these projects you're involved in and your solo records. You're
Uh-huh.
really big on keyboards.
That's
You use a
true.
lot of
That's
keyboards in
true.
everything you do.
That's very true. I do love me some keys. Because I feel like it's like a cousin of the guitar, you know what I mean? We occupy the same space in a lot of ways. We have to learn how to stay out of each other's way and complement each other in a way that makes sense. Like, it kind of I don't know. I connect with it in a way. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Now, who plays keyboard? Who played keyboards on your solo records?
So it's Alex Argento, and
Oh,
he's yeah, and
Alex.
yeah,
Yes. No.
he's been very instrumental, no pun intended, in a lot of the arrangements and the program drums and stuff like that. Because he knows that world so well. So he was a very very big part of Spectrum, especially.
Yeah. I, I'm blown away that you said that because I only saw in press materials references to the guitar players
Right.
and the amazing drummers you've had, but the Spectrum record in particular was a very electronic sounding record.
Exactly.
It didn't have the big drumming of like
Right.
Virgil, and the likes. But I swear when I heard the song Gentrification, I was
Hmm.
actually thinking of Alex's band Icefish.
Right, exactly. Well,
Um,
again, it's like it all cycles, right? Because I think he took a lot of influence from Virgil back into what he does, and vice versa, and all these different things. And I mean, that's how I met Alex back in the day, and that's why it was so important for me to keep working with him, because I knew he was someone who, again, is well versed in, Spectrum had all this world music type of thing, and I knew that he was someone that, with his culture and where he comes from, he understands that kind of thing, and I'd be able to communicate. And I really didn't know. I was like, who else would be able to put together this kind of project with me, and I don't know how it would have happened without him, truly.
Yeah, yeah. And for those people who don't know him, Alex Argento, he's a keyboard player.
Insane. Insane.
You need to know if
Yeah, he's
you
insane.
appreciate
And
good
an insane
keyboards.
writer as well, and just such a unique skill set. He's great at arranging, he mixes and masters everything. He's a great player, I mean, just can't say enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Cool. So tell me, so we talked about your guitars a little bit. Tell me about your amplifiers of choice.
So these days I'm using the Mesa TC100s. And I'm trying to get a hold of another one because I hear that they're not going to be making them anymore, and I really want to hold on to that amp. I really like it. I also use the Headrush products a lot of times on fly dates and things like that. It's the little MX5 is literally my fly rig, and it's saved my butt in a lot of situations where I wasn't able to get my amp of choice or anything. So I kind of play it based on the situation, but I definitely always consider myself an amp player first, and I will do that as long as it makes sense to.
Yeah.
And you'll see that in the Lavender Mountains video, by the way. That Mesa is like prominently featured in that music video.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. So when you use them when you go the modeling route,
Hmm.
um, what amps do you tend to choose as the models?
I
So
don't remember what I built, but probably I think it's like based on 5150s or things of that nature.
okay, so
Seem
you
to
lean
be
towards
one.
the 6L6 tube sound.
Yeah, 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 I think so.
Yeah,
But I mean, I played the JSX for many years, and that's the EL34s, right?
I think it is. Yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, with the modeling stuff, I feel like they always have like the different categories of like 3-channel amp type amps and stuff like that. So I think when I end up in that category, it could be either or, and it kind of does the same thing, I feel like.
yeah, very nice. And on your records, have you been recording your albums
Hmm.
with the real amps, or do
Yes.
you use
Yeah, I've always used real amps on all the records.
okay? And on the new songs that are coming out?
Yes. Those were actually the first recordings I've made with the TC100. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so just when you find a new amp that you love, you find out that it might be going away.
Well, isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually what happened to me with the JSX too. I don't think they made it when I got my hands on the one I have, and that's why every time something like that comes around, you're like looking for that backup. But when they each weigh like 55 pounds, you're like, maybe maybe it's not worth the backup now. I don't know. It's so hard to find and move.
Yeah,
Oh man.
definitely. And let's talk a little bit about songwriting. There are
Hmm.
some obvious influences to me in when I listen to your collection of work. Um,
Hmm.
Nuno Betancourt is one of the big
Right.
big players style wise that I detect in your lead playing. But as a
Right.
songwriter, I feel like you've really come from the Joe Satriani camp. Tell me
Mhm.
about your songwriting and your influences there.
So it's interesting that you say that. I definitely it's pretty spot on. I mean, I think the reason people compare my writing or not compare, but the reason you mentioned Joe, I think, is because my approach to instrumental writing has always been like I really want the melody to be forefront, and I feel like I've gotten better at my ability to convey that over the years. And so I think that's what reminds people of Satch, because he's been so amazing at doing that in instrumental music, and he's one that people associate with memorable guitar melodies. So I always take that as a compliment, because that has been my goal in life, is to kind of, I'm not a vocalist, I'm a guitarist, and that's my lead voice, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to still be singing the same melodies, right? So that's probably why I think people hear that. And with Nuno, yeah, he's one of my biggest influences. I wouldn't be playing guitar otherwise. So
Yeah.
what can I say? Wear my influences on my sleeve.
Yes, and of course, he was from a Boston band, and you went to Boston for
There's
school.
that, man. I gotta tell you, I was the dorkiest little 12-year-old when her parents told her that she's moving to Extreme's hometown, and she was just like, "Oh my god!" Oh, it was such a big deal.
And so how did you end up in the desert?
Well, Cirque actually is what brought me out here. I was in LA prior to that, and I never expected to fall in love with Las Vegas, but when I came here, it reminded me of deserts that I had seen in Israel, and kind of, not that I lived right in the desert, but it just reminded me of some childhood experiences, and it felt like my natural habitat, so to speak. So I couldn't really ever explain the feeling, but it felt right in my bones. And as much as Boston was special to me in a way, I never really felt right with that climate at all. I struggled with that for many, many years, and I was always like, why am I so unhappy? So this feels right to me, and that's why I'm staying here.
That's great. And any any closing thoughts you'd like to share about the new music, or
Mm.
actually this summer, tell me about the Baby Clock tour. What's
Oh
that all about?
yes. Well, so I've been playing in Death Clock since 2019. Since it's 2019, you can imagine how many things we've gotten to do since then. But now with the movie coming out and new album and everything, so there's going to be a huge tour to support it with Baby Metal and Jason Richardson, and that's coming all across the states starting in late August. And we just announced two more Elfman shows in San Diego and Irvine, and that's in early August. We just announced that this morning, so gonna be busy and fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, when do you find time to write all this instrumental stuff?
I don't, well, you know what? That's the thing. That's all old, and then it comes out like 3 years later, and to me, it's old as shit. And I'm like, I just really want to get this music out there quicker to people. That's why you're getting singles, because I don't want you to have to wait even longer. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
get ready to check out these singles. They're coming out this week, one
Yeah.
after the other. And Nili, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sky. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.